Hello, welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack Postgame, where the Jazz take a loss in Salt Lake tonight against the Bucks. Jazz 110, the Bucks 125. But the most important thing, the Jazz do get a loss in the race for the most advantageous draft position, and the young guys continue to get some significant minutes. So let's talk about that minutes distribution with the younger players, and also in the grand scheme of things, where do the Jazz currently stand in terms of point differential? Let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So the Jazz take the loss tonight in Salt Lake against the Bucks. This is the outcome is a positive. We all wish the game was a little bit closer and a little bit more competitive, the final score, but there are going to be nights like this, especially when the emphasis obviously is trying to maximize draft position and then trying to develop young talent. There are going to be some nights that it's a struggle. But there are some positives as well. So the Jazz do lose the game, which is good for their draft position. And also, the young guys continue to get significant minutes, and particularly in the backcourt with Collier and Keontae. Both of those guys need development time, and that's going to, in the final outcomes of the games, obviously with the final score, it's not going to help the Jazz win games. But in the long term, getting those guys minutes now and taking the losses and some lumps, so to speak, it's going to help the team in the long term. And that showed again. So Keontae and Collier both got good minutes tonight, and there are some positives with that. So another thing we're going to talk about is, where do the Jazz actually stand with point differential compared to all the other teams that are trying to maneuver for the best draft position possible? And we need to take a look at that. I think that's time we actually take a look at that and see where the Jazz currently stand with regard to all the other teams around them. So let's first quickly take a look at the box score and see where things played out tonight. Lowry got good minutes again, and that's a positive. And he shot the ball reasonably well. Yes, he didn't shoot 50%, but he was one made basket away from shooting 50%. And again, like previous games, Lowry hasn't been shooting the ball well from three. So the 2 for 12 from three kind of did his field goal percentage in. But again, he rebounded the ball well with 9 rebounds. He did have an assist. He still scored 19 points, and it's important to keep Lowry's total points up in the 20 range. So even though he had an off night shooting the 3 ball, at least he still scored 19 points, and that's a positive. And the 9 rebounds is nice. Yes, it would be nice if he threw in a steal and a couple more assists in the box score, but overall, a positive night for Lowry because he did tally 19 points and 9 rebounds. And since Walker didn't play in the game, and John Collins also didn't play in the game, the minutes distribution between the forward and center were kind of given to Micah Potter and Drew Eubanks and Kyle. So all three of those guys received significant minutes. And Micah and Drew struggled from the field tonight. Micah went 1 for 7, 4 rebounds in 23 minutes, and Drew played 22 minutes, went 2 for 9 from the field, but he did get 10 rebounds. So positive. I mean, it's positive. It's nice to see those guys play once in a while. You know, I hate to see guys just sit on the bench and not get any minutes game after game after game after game, especially when both of those guys seem to be pretty good dudes. So it's once in a while, especially when they're holding Walker out and John Collins is held out in the same game. You know, it's a good game for those guys to get minutes. So I think it's a positive. Colin had a decent night shooting the ball tonight. 6 for 13, 3 for 5 from 3, 4 for 5 from the free throw line. Those are all good numbers, really good numbers, along with 5 rebounds, 4 assists. And Collins didn't have any turnovers tonight, which is great, absolutely great. So he plays 27 minutes, scores 19 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Those are fantastic numbers for Colin. Especially considering he did not have any turnovers tonight. Absolutely great. Collier, again, he shot the ball well. 6 for 9 from the field. He played 28 minutes. All really good. 2 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals. He committed 4 turnovers, but with the young players, especially the young point guards trying to run an offense, there are going to be games where he's going to turn it over. He's had some really positive games with the assist-to-turnover ratio. Tonight's still not a horrible night. He's still 2-1, but it's all good. He's getting minutes. He's getting experience. He's improving. This is exactly what we want. And I think the Jazz have come to the conclusion that of the people on the roster at the current time, Isaiah is clearly the number 1 point guard, and I would assume, unless something changes with the roster, where they get another point guard on the roster that has greater potential than Isaiah, I would assume that the Jazz at this point consider Isaiah the long-term piece at point guard, considering the play of everybody else on the roster. So I really like, that pass that he made in the first quarter to Lowry for the dunk was absolutely tremendous. That was perfectly, and it was a bounce pass. Nice to see the bounce pass with 2 hands. Great. Absolutely a perfect pass. Hit Lowry in stride where he could catch the ball and jam it. And absolutely amazing play. That's exactly what you want from the point guard. That's exactly the right play. And he made it look easy. Kyle, let's move on to him. Now, Kyle, again, he received some good minutes. Nearly 26 minutes. He struggled a little bit from the field tonight, 2 for 7, 0 for 4 from 3. He made 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And again, the thing I like most about Kyle is his ability to pass the ball. So 3 assists, no turnovers. He only scored 6 points, but positive night from Kyle because he got minutes. And Bryce, again, I'm not sure what happened with Bryce's minutes, but he's obviously, he had some really big nights shooting the ball, and then he went out he missed some games, and then he comes back, and now he's getting fewer minutes again. But with those minutes, he took 9 shots in 15 minutes. So that's a lot of shots for 15 minutes. But he went 6 for 9, great. 5 for 8 from 3, no rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, scored 17 points. I would say overall, that's a really positive night for Bryce, even though obviously we'd like to see him get some rebounds and get more assists than 1 in 15 minutes. It'd be nice if he would have had, in 15 minutes, if he'd had 2 assists, but hey, he shot 6 for 9 from the field. So again, getting some minutes, he's getting experience. That's what we need. So we get down to Keontae, and the interesting thing is the second game in a row where Keontae came off the bench. But then you look at his total minutes, even though he came off the bench, and he's playing 31 minutes, which is the second most behind Lowry of anyone on the team. So he shoots 5 for 13. Obviously, not a great night shooting the ball. He shot 3 for 8 from 3, which is a decent night shooting the ball from 3. But then obviously his twos, he goes 2 for 5. But he still, the 5 assists is really good, especially against 1 turnover. As a guy coming off the bench at 31 minutes and really not playing the point guard spot anymore, I'd say the Jazz are looking for him to be more of a combo guard at this point. That at least that's the way it's trending. It seems to me that the Jazz feel that he's a combo guard, and obviously Isaiah is the point guard of the future in terms of the roster right now. So I'd say the more minutes, obviously Keontae's not my favorite player, but the more minutes he gets to where the Jazz have a better footing for evaluation going forward, the better it is for the Jazz. He just needs minutes, and that's the same with Filipowski. It's the same with Collier. It's the same with Bryce. I mean, all these guys, and it's the same with Walker too. I mean, obviously Walker's a significant piece. He's shown that. His defensive ability is fantastic, and he's improving on offense. But still, he needs on-court development time, and the more minutes all those guys get, the better it is for the Jazz in the future. So Jordan comes back tonight. So Clarkson's back. He plays 22 minutes. He goes 4 for 12 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line. He has 5 assists and 1 turnover. So those are pretty big minutes. So with Jordan back and playing significant minutes, his first game back after being out a long time with the plantar fasciitis, he plays 22 minutes. But Svi, who's been playing, plays 0 minutes. So I would say that that's probably the trend that we are going to see as long as Jordan is back playing, is Svi is going to be on the bench once again. Or if he does play, it's going to be in very limited minutes rather than getting the 20-something minutes that he has in some of these previous games. So that's kind of the look at the box score tonight. Overall, I think tonight was another positive. It's a positive because I really like to see Isaiah play well, and I thought he played well again. And of the guys playing tonight, I think that he's the most important in terms of getting minutes and getting development time. And I would put Collier. I'd put Filipowski as number 2, and then obviously Keontae after that would be my number 3. But still, the veteran guys, the guys we want to get minutes to keep up their averages, Lowry and Collin were able to do that with 19 points, and John Collins obviously didn't play. So I still don't think that, regardless of what Jordan does from here out, I don't think that he's going to get the Jazz a significant trade asset in return in any trades. So I don't think it's as important to keep his averages up. I honestly don't. Yes, it would be nice to get rid of Jordan's contract so that it would permanently free up minutes for the younger players. But I don't think it's important to play him a lot of minutes to get to keep his averages up, because I just don't think that he's ever going to bring anything meaningful back in trades. So let's take a look at where the Jazz currently stand in terms of minutes distribution. I mean, in terms of point differential. Now, the theory is, and this has been discussed for many, many years, that a team's record usually follows its point differential. So if we look at the league right now in terms of point differential, I mean, Oklahoma City is killing everybody. They're up at the top. They are a plus 12.3 on the season, by far and away the most. And second on that list is Cleveland at 9.7, then Boston 8.7, etc. But then let's move down to the bottom. Now, Washington is vastly worse than any other team. I mean, Washington is so far behind in terms of both their record and their point differential. I mean, they're obviously going to end the season with the worst record in the NBA, and there's no way that anybody is going to challenge them for that. I mean, the Washington Wizards currently stand at a negative 14.5. That is an absolutely obscene number. That is just a brutally bad number. And they have 6 wins on the year compared to 39 losses. They have a 133 winning percentage. I mean, it's brutal. So the second worst team in terms of point differential is actually New Orleans. So New Orleans is number 2 at a negative 8.6, and then Brooklyn at a negative 7.8, and then Portland at a negative 7.5, and then the Jazz. So the Jazz are actually 5th worst. They are not in the bottom 2, even though the Jazz record right now, the Jazz have the second worst record in the NBA. But their point differential is 5th worst. Now, like I said, the theory is that a team's record, their wins and loss record, typically follows the point differential. And by the end of the season, where the point differential is typically about where you end up. Now, the Jazz right now are defying those odds. And like every true Jazz fan, for the most part, wants the Jazz to get in the bottom 3 in terms of record to try and position themselves to get a high draft choice. Now, if the record follows true as has historically been shown, then the Jazz are not in a great position. But I will actually counter with a different argument. I want the Jazz to lose games, but I want them to lose games while being competitive. And thus far, in many of the games this season, the Jazz have been able to lose games while making some of those games very competitive. And that's why they are in the 5th worst point differential rather than down below New Orleans. And New Orleans currently stands at 8.6, and the Jazz stand at 7.3. So I think that's good from a fan's perspective. We want them to lose, but we want them to lose while playing a competitive game. And hopefully this continues with some really competitive games, but still not winning a lot of those games, so that we can wind up in one of the 3 worst records to maximize our potential for the number 1 pick. So that's where things currently stand. That's how historically the point differential has been viewed. I heard, I don't know, it's probably about 20 years ago, Hubie Brown was doing a game on national TV, or maybe it was national radio, and he was talking about the point differential and how typically by the end of the season, I mean, obviously this has been talked about for a long time, but Hubie was saying, yes, but typically by the end of the season, the record will usually follow the point differential. So wherever the point differential is, that's typically about where you'll end up. So let's just hope that the Jazz can actually defy those odds and continue to lose these games, but have a point differential that's actually not even in the vicinity of the 14.5 or even the 8.6. I mean, it'd be better. I would rather trimmed a little bit more to around maybe 6.5, and hopefully still be able to get one of those 3 worst records. So the other thing that I would like to talk about, let's talk about the minutes distribution of the Jazz, of currently with regard to the Jazz players and where things currently stand. So obviously a lot of guys, we've had a lot of missed games with players, and right now Colin has actually played the most games of anyone on the Jazz at 41. So really, you know, a lot of these minutes distributions, because of missed games, you know, people are going to play more minutes when guys miss games and whatnot. So, you know, this can't be judged based on the Jazz having a full roster every night, because they obviously haven't. They're resting all sorts of players. I mean, players are in and out. I mean, it's actually very chaotic. I mean, it's the roster is different from game to game. So it's really hard. But right now, Lowry is at 31.7 minutes a game, and that leads the Jazz. Now, Lowry has only played 33 games compared to Collins' 41. But in the games that he has played, he's still playing nearly 32 minutes, which is great. But Keontae is actually second on the team in minutes played at 31.6. And I still don't understand this one. I would rather Keontae earn his minutes, and to this point, I want to play Keontae, but I want him to earn his minutes, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think that he's done that. I mean, I don't think he did it last year, and he received a ton of minutes. And I don't think he's done it this year, and he's still receiving a ton of minutes. And, I mean, he's improved this year. Definitely improvement this year over last year, but he's still a very poor defender, and I would like him to to play the second most minutes on the team. I'd rather see him earn those minutes, earn that second highest minutes per game. I just don't think he has. Now, obviously, that's just my opinion, but I just, from the defensive effort and lack of defensive effort, I just don't see it. But John Collins has played really well this year. And so his minutes distribution at 29.8 is, I think that's fully justified. I think he's earned those minutes. And with some luck, the Jazz can actually get some sort of draft capital in return for John. I mean, even if it's a several seconds. I mean, we gave up I think it was 1 second when we sent him. When we traded Atlanta for John Collins, I think we was sent 1 second to Atlanta. I mean, it'd be really nice. And the Jazz, I'd like to see the Jazz actually get some second-round picks and improve the number of second-round picks they have at their disposal. So even if the Jazz get second-round picks in return, I would like that. Obviously, the best case scenario is they get some sort of a first-round pick, even if it's protected. I mean, the Jazz just sent out three first rounds for the one unprotected first of Phoenix. So, with some luck, I don't believe this is going to happen. With some luck, maybe the Jazz can turn John Collins into some sort of a first-round pick. And then after John Collins, Walker is playing basically the same number of minutes, and Walker has played 35 games, which is the second most on the team, and that's great for Walker. And the 30 minutes a game is, I think, probably about right, 30 to 32. I mean, I'd like 32, but 30, 2 minutes less than that, I think that's really positive. And Walker in those 30 minutes, I mean, the guy is averaging 11.4 rebounds a game and 4.5. He's obviously, the Jazz broadcasts have talked about him being the leader in the NBA in offensive rebounds at 4.5 per game. So those are good. Those are good numbers. Those are really good numbers. 11.3 points per game, 30 minutes. 11.4 rebounds, 2.4 blocks. Good numbers, really good numbers. Really happy for the guy. I think he's making good progress. And if he continues to get 30 minutes for the rest of the season, or even more than that, up 32, 33, I think that Walker will continue to progress on the offensive end, especially where we can actually see meaningful improvement. And I think we've actually seen some moves that he's made in the last couple of weeks where we've seen meaningful improvement, where he's done some things a couple of times, well, more than a couple of times, a few times where it would be hard for us to foresee him doing those things previously. So I think he's definitely making progress, and that's great to see. So after Walker, we get to Colin, who's also playing 29 minutes a game. And I think that's a positive for Colin. And the number of games played at the 41, leading the team, is really positive for Colin. 18.3 points a game. I think he has the capability to score a little bit more than that at a really high percentage, really efficient. But, playing 29 minutes instead of playing 35 minutes is going to keep his numbers a bit down. But then again, the Jazz are trying to develop other guys in the backcourt. So as long as he gets, I would still like to see, I think Colin can bring back in a trade draft capital that's meaningful. So I think it's important to keep his numbers up. He and John Collins and Lowry, those are the three veteran guys on the team. We want to keep those guys' numbers up. And so even if Colin takes, Colin's still a young guy. He just turned 26 years old. He's a young guy. He has a number of years left in the league where he can play at a high level. He's playing at a fairly high level. I still think that he can, if the Jazz want him to score 20-plus points a game, he can certainly do that at a high efficiency number. So it matters. It just depends on who the Jazz decide to play in the backcourt. So after this, Clarkson, we go to Clarkson. Clarkson has had the plantar fasciitis issues. And as a result of that, he's only played 22 games. And so, he's played 25 minutes a game for 22 games, and he's averaging 16 points. I would rather his minutes be cut more than that. I think that I'd rather some of his minutes go to Colin. I'd rather some of his minutes go to Collier. I would prefer that his minutes go to those two players, in all honesty. I just do not see the Jazz turning him into any sort of meaningful draft capital. So I don't understand his numbers. That's his playing time. I think that he's just taking minutes from guys that we need to develop. And Taylor, after that, is obviously, it really isn't a factor because he only played 3 games before having the season-ending injury. But after that, we get Collier, and Collier's played 35 games for the Jazz, which is great. That's one of the most games played on the team, and that's fantastic for a rookie point guard. Awesome, and he's playing 21.3 minutes, and quite frankly, in recent weeks, he's played significantly more minutes per game than that. So I think everything is trending right for that kid, and it's all positive. He really needs the experience. All the experience that he can get this year, I think, benefits the Jazz in the long run. So the more minutes he gets, the better. After that, we have Cody, who has obviously played a bunch of G League games, and so he's only played 26 games, and he's playing 21 minutes per game. So I think this is positive for Cody. I still think that he needs more development time in the G League. I would like to see him. If he has a chance to just go between the two teams. And, if the G League team is in Salt Lake and he's in Salt Lake and the Jazz play a game, I think it's positive for him to get access to be with the Jazz and be around his normal teammates that he's going to have his teammates long-term rather than his G League teammates. I think that's positive for Cody, but I'd still like to see him get significant minutes in the G League and play big minutes in the G League and get and have the ball in his hands where he can make plays for others, where he can work on his shooting and work on his offensive moves and all that. I think that's better for Cody at this point and better for the Jazz overall if he just gets more time in the G League than with the Jazz. But, in the games he has played, he's played a lot of minutes. I mean, 21 minutes for somebody who's struggled as much as he has. I mean, that's significant minutes, obviously. And then after that, we have Svi at 19 minutes, and he's only played in 17 games. Obviously, he has a lot of DMPs. But Kyle, after that, he's played 33 games at 18.3 minutes per game. And I think that's the one guy that I would really like to see his minutes increased from where they are right now on an per game average basis. So the 18.3, hopefully that he can get a few more minutes. But I think that he's played well enough. He's shown well enough that he should continue to get minutes with the Jazz, and hopefully he doesn't get sent to the G League again for meaningful minutes there. I think that he's proven himself to be an NBA player right now and proven himself to be good enough potential so where he has earned a place with the Jazz rather than being relegated to the G League for development time. So we are on to Bryce, and Bryce has also played in 33 games, and he's playing at 18.2 minutes per game. And I think that's probably about right for Bryce overall, around 20 minutes a game. I think that's where he probably should be. I still want to get into a little bit better shape. I think that's important. I think that would help him on the defensive side of the ball, which is where I want to see his improvement. Bryce can really shoot the ball. We all know that. I mean, he has a really beautiful stroke. He has a beautiful stroke from three. He has a beautiful stroke from the mid-range. He has really great technique shooting the ball. I just would like to see him continue to reduce his body fat percentage a bit more, lose a bit more weight, and improve on the defensive end. I think those are the growth areas for Bryce for this season, and hopefully that's emphasized every day in practice, every game, and hopefully we see improvement in those areas. After that, I think the last player that I will talk about is Johnny. Now, Johnny has played 32 games, which is a decent number compared to the rest of the guys on the roster, but he's obviously hasn't played in a number of games now. I don't know how many games he's missed in a row, but it's several. But he's playing 18 minutes a game too. So in the games that he has played, he's played meaningful minutes. And Johnny has shot the ball well this year. He's shown that he's a very competent shooter. He certainly became much more a three-point shooter since leaving UCLA. I mean, he dominated the mid-range game at UCLA, and since being in the NBA, he's improved his three-point shooting immensely, and that's a credit to him. He worked on it, and he improved himself overall, and I think that he's shown that he's definitely an NBA player and is deserving of NBA minutes, regardless of where. I mean, the Jazz gave him a contract, and I think everything's positive. I mean, I like Johnny too. Johnny seems like a genuinely really good guy, and he seems like he's really happy to be here in Utah. So I think it's positive with Johnny too. I mean, if he gets around the 20-minute a game mark for the rest of the season, I think that's a good development time for him, and I think that we should continue to see improvement in his overall game. Again, like Bryce, I think that he has room for improvement on the defensive end, and hopefully that's still an area of concentration where he's really working on that. But anyway, I think overall another positive night, and we will see what happens after the next game, and hopefully the Jazz can continue to rack up some losses, but keep the games competitive, and so it makes it interesting from all of us who sit through the games and cheer on the team. We obviously want draft position, but let's see a competitive basketball nonetheless, and development for the young guys. That's what we all hope for. Anyway, we will talk to you after the next game and possibly before that if we decide to do some analysis of like shooting or some other things that we have on the docket for making some content for the channel. But anyway, it's great talking to everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we will talk to you after the next game. Good night, everybody. Have a good night.